Hello everybody and welcome back to Robert's English Classroom. I did some research on phrasal verbs used in the TOEIC. I found a lot of them. So I broke it down into 10 that have two meanings. And one meaning of the phrasal verb is a simpler one. And then the other meaning, I called it the TOEIC meaning, is a little more difficult and a little more complex and phrasal verbs that you should know. So this is part one. I'll just work on 5 in this lesson, and in part 2, we'll do another 5. So let's get started with TOEIC phrasal verbs. So before I begin, remember that a phrasal verb is a verb plus a preposition after it, and it has a different meaning than each of the words that it uses. Now, sometimes there are 2 prepositions. It's a 3-word phrasal verb, but often it's 2. Also, phrasal verbs can be used in 3 ways. So one is the phrasal verb plus an object after. A second way is phrasal verb only with no object. And a third way is phrasal verb that's separated, where you put the object between the verb and the preposition. So I will show you how we use each of these phrasal verbs, and if you can separate it or object after or phrasal verb only, because each of them are different and you can't do the same rules for each phrasal verb. So let's begin with number 1, bring up. Bring up. Now, the first easier meaning of bring up, common meaning, is to literally carry something from down to up. For example, you have a basement in your house, so you carry up something from the basement to the 2nd floor. Maybe there are some boxes or some bags of trash you want to take out, so you bring up the trash from downstairs to upstairs. Now, you can also bring up by using a car. So maybe your car is at the bottom of a hill and you want to drive it up and bring up some people or bring up some things. So you bring up the people in the car. So it's very easy. Just means to carry or take something from down a lower place to a higher place. Some examples. Mom asked Jason to bring up the books from the basement. So Jason brought the books up. So here we see bring up plus an object. So bring up plus an object can be used. We can also separate and put the object in the middle. So brought the books up. So bring up can be used with object after or object in the middle. Now let's go to the TOEIC meaning, or the more complex meaning of bring up. We use this when we want to mention or introduce a topic to someone or a group of people. We bring up the idea or bring up the topic. Again, we can separate it and put the object in the middle, so we bring the topic up or bring the idea up. Now, when you have a new idea and want to share it with everyone, you can bring it up to everyone. This is when we use it. So it could be in a class, in the office, in a meeting, online, in a chat group, in a text group. You bring up your idea or bring up your thought. And it's usually something you think everyone should know, or maybe an idea that can help improve a situation. So an example, at the office, John often brings up good marketing ideas, and hopefully they like it and they use them. Please don't bring up any sensitive topics with him. So John brings up ideas. He says some new ideas in the meetings. Don't bring up any sensitive topics. That means don't say anything that might offend or make the person uncomfortable. Don't bring up uncomfortable topics with him or sensitive topics with him. Number 2 is look into. Look into. Now, look into is we use look into by putting the object after it. That's the only time. So we look into plus object. Now, the easy meaning of look into is simply look into something. You take your eyes and look into something. So I look into the box. I look into the bottle. I look into a glass. I look into the camera. I look into the mirror. So we set our eyes and we look into something. For example, she looked into the mirror and noticed a red spot on her nose. She looked into the mirror. Take a look into that box on the floor and tell me what's in there. Take a look into the box and tell me what's in there. Now, a second meaning of look into, a little bit more difficult, is to investigate or research. So actually, we're not using our eyes to look into something here. We're doing a lot of different things to learn more about a topic or a problem. So we look into something to learn more about something. There might be a question that somebody asks you, and you say, let me look into it, meaning I need to learn more about this question to give you an answer. The police, if they have a crime to solve, they often look into the crime. They ask witnesses, they do some research, and try to solve the problem, learn more about the crime and what happened. This is why we look into things. The police looked into the current bank robbery and found some new clues. How about at the office? The sales team look into why their sales are dropping, and they found some ways to make improvements. So the sales team has dropping sales. They don't know why. So they look into the sales drop and they learn something. They find out something new and they make improvements to change it around. Number 3 is makeup. Now, the first meaning of makeup, we don't put an object after it and we don't separate it. We just use makeup by itself. Now, makeup here means when people have a disagreement or a fight and they are angry with each other for a while, they eventually come back, talk it out, and make up, become friends again. Maybe a couple has an argument and they split up and they don't talk for a few days, but finally they come back together, talk it out, decide we don't need to be arguing and fighting, and make up. So again, we're not putting an object after this. We just say they make up. After a big fight, they finally made up and apologized to each other. The couple didn't stay angry at each other for long. They met for dinner and made up. So again, no object after make up. We just use made up by itself. However, the second meaning of makeup, or the TOEIC meaning, is a little bit different. Here, made up means to invent or create a story or an excuse. So first, let's talk about the creativity part. If you are a writer and you need to create new characters or stories, you have a lot of ideas, you need to make up a lot of things. So if you make up a story, you also need to make up characters for the story. So you are inventing or creating something new. Here, we put an object after make up. We also can separate and put the object in the middle. So we can make the characters up, or make the story up, or make up the story. Okay. However, there's another reason to use makeup, And that's if we want to lie or make an excuse for ourselves. It's often not in the best situations. So, for example, if you don't want to tell the truth about something to someone, you can make up a false story or make up an excuse. It means you're going to say something that's not real and not true. There could be a good reason for doing this, but it's also a little bit like lying. Let's look for an example here. Bob was late for class again. So he made up a story about having car trouble and told it to the professor. So here Bob makes up a story or creates a not real story to tell somebody it's true. So he made it up. He made the story up. But the other meaning, the game creators made up some interesting characters for their new card game. Here, the creators are making up something, and you know it is not real, right? They're just thinking of new ideas and creating a story and characters. And here we use made up or make them up. Number 4, run into. Run into. So the first meaning of run into is to actually run or walk and bump into something, physically bump into something. You run into something. Now here, the phrasal verb, we will put an object after it, not in the middle of it and not by itself. So we run into an object, run into the tree, run into another person, run into a car, run into a wall. Now, why would someone run into something? Well, they could be walking or running and head down, looking at their cell phone, and they don't see what's coming ahead, and boom, they run into a tree or they run into a door. Maybe this has happened to you because a lot of people walk around looking down at their phones. So an example, Steve often looks down at his phone when he's running at the park. He has run into several people and even a dog. He should be more careful. So running into something can be a little bit dangerous. But the second meaning of run into is different. Actually, in this meaning, we do not physically touch anything or anyone. Run into means to meet somebody by chance or by accident. So you might be walking around a store or walking around the park or on the street or on an airplane or train, and you see somebody you know. That means you run into somebody you know. I ran into my friend at the park. I ran into my boss at the restaurant. I ran into my aunt on the street. So here, run into means you meet somebody by accident, but you don't actually hit them, bump into them, like the other meaning of run into. I ran into my old college friend from college at the supermarket. While walking in the park, I ran into my neighbor's dog. I think he was lost. Number 5, and the last one for part 1 of this lesson, is get back. Get back. Now, the first meaning of get back is to come back to a place or a state where you were before, to come back to that place. And here we can put an object after get back, but not in between, and we don't use get back by itself. So we use get back when someone is returning to a place or situation after being away. So maybe you leave your home and you get back to your home at 6 o'clock. Or you leave work and then you say, I have to get back to work soon. I need to get back to the gym and work out more. Or, oh, I'm late for basketball practice. I need to get back there quickly. So simply means you need to go back or return to a place. An example, I'll get back to the office on Monday. June will get back from vacation next week. When will you get back here? When will you get back here? Now, the second meaning of get back is a little bit different. Here it means to answer or reply or return an email or phone call to someone. So it's easy to think of it like we use it to answer someone. We get back to a person or we get back to the group. So if someone contacts you and has a question or needs more information, you will need to get back to them or reply to them. You don't need to get back right away. You can tell them you will get back to them at a certain time. We usually use get back for like emails or phone calls or text messages or even direct questions with somebody. So here's an example. Hey Mel, thank you for your question. Let me get back to you in a day or two. So often this get back is followed by a to. Get back to who? Can you please get back to me with your answer before 5 o'clock? Thank you. Get back to me. Answer me. You answer me before 5 o'clock. So there you have get back as returning, physically returning somewhere, but also get back as verbally answering you or using a text message or email to answer somebody. So let's review quickly. Number 1, bring up. Number 2, look into. Number 3, make up. Number 4, run into. And number 5, get back. And again, there will be a part 2 to this video, so look out for it. And I will have 5 more of these kinds of phrasal verbs. Question of the lesson. Choose one of these phrasal verbs and then write me a sentence using each of the meanings. If you want, you can choose all the phrasal verbs. That's fine. Write them in the comment box. And of course, I'll take a look and I'll respond to you, or I will get back to you as soon as I can. Okay, everybody, I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye-bye.